to bend phrase and time into something clever.
Hey, well, this is hopefully a shorter video. I just wanted to, this is like a continuation of the video I did last night. Why should you become an atheist? Responding to Matthew 4:19's question. What is this, part 2? This is kind of a part 2, I suppose. I just thought, maybe some Christians would be interested to know what were my questions that nagged at me. It's funny because now that I'm on the other end of all that, I honestly don't remember all the questions that I had because they're behind me. They don't bother me anymore. They don't sit on my mind as a it's like when you put a saddle blanket and a saddle on a horse, and there's a small pebble on the inside of the saddle blanket, and you tighten the girth, and the horse doesn't act quite right, and you don't know what's wrong, but you can just tell that your horse is very tense under you and kind of is jumpy, and you don't understand what it is, and and the horse can't be comfortable because it's got this little obstruction digging into its skin on its back, and it's not really painful for the horse, but it's annoying. It's bothersome. Or like if something a little closer to home for a person, it's like you have a little tiny rock in your shoe, and you're too lazy to take off your shoe because maybe it's a kind of shoe that maybe you're walking down the street first of all, and you don't want to crouch down and have people walking around you while you're huddled there on the sidewalk trying to take off your shoe. Or maybe you have a shoe that's just really kind of takes a lot of work to take it off, lots of laces, and maybe they're like, so you're gonna just put up with it. So you kind of kick your foot a little bit, and the rock gets out of position, and you don't feel it anymore. So you're good to go, and you walk another couple blocks, and then the little rock gets back under your foot, and ow, you don't. So then you have to do it again, and it just bugs you. It's there. And that you could get rid of it if you wanted to get rid of it. But it's just not, for whatever reason, you don't want to take the time to go through the work of getting rid of the little rock. So you just kind of try to keep it out of your way so you can keep going. It's kind of what the questions were like for me as a Christian. I knew they were there. I tried not to let them, I just ignored them. I just acted like they weren't there. I never brought them out on the table and examined them. And I became pretty good at kidding myself. Things that just didn't quite sit right with me because there was just something not quite right about them. I learned to just selectively look at things, like the guy who was staying with me. A part of me knew that he was using me. A part of me knew that he didn't think very highly of me. I thought we were friends. I kept telling myself, well, he wouldn't be here if he didn't care. He wouldn't be your, he's got to be your friend. Why else would he be here and be in your house? And but there was always this little naggy voice. Now, if I had listened to that little naggy voice, it would have been painful because it would have meant that I would have had to face the reality that this wasn't a friend, and that this person that I cared the world about, I was nothing to him but something to use. That's a painful thing. So rather than face that, I just continued to delude myself into thinking that I had a friend, a good friend, the kind of friend I could rely on and confide in, and all these things. And it turned out to not be true. It's kind of like that with these questions. I just, it's so much easier to just, I pretty much, it was what I always was. I was before age 12, I wasn't a Christian, but when you're as old as me, you can't really remember much that far back. I remember the Billy Graham Crusade. I remember becoming a Christian, and then the big chunk of my life I was a Christian. But I always had these questions, and it was just like walking down the street with the rock. I just didn't ever put them out there. I never really faced them. One of the things was I had a thing for, I've always had a thing for animals and dinosaurs and past life. I love old stuff. I love going into an antique store, you know, and you see like an old chest, and it's got, in fact, I have a steamer trunk upstairs, and it's a great big huge thing made out of wood, and it's got rivets along the top, you know, and then there's this one spot where the rivets they're a different style, and they're close together, like it was a repair. Somebody who owned the steamer trunk, this was an actual thing that somebody used. It wasn't just a decorative item. It was a piece of luggage, and somebody used it, you know. And this was like the early 1900s or the very late 1800s. Somebody used this thing, and so it's got stuff on it. It's got this area on the lid where it's clearly been repaired. Somebody repaired it, and it doesn't look like the rest of the trunk where it's been repaired. And I look at that, and it's like so cool. For some reason, that makes that trunk so much cooler to me, because it's testimony of the story of the trunk. The trunk has a history. You know, if the trunk could talk, what would it say? You know, somebody owned that trunk. Somebody carried that trunk. Somebody packed it with their valuables and traveled with it. You know, there's just, when you think about what the story might be, and the person who's no longer alive who owned the trunk, or maybe there was more than one person, or maybe it sat in somebody's house, and you know, there was a time when somebody opened that trunk and handed something very prized and valuable to their child, said, you know, I've been saving this for you, you know, this was given to me by my mom or dad, and now I want to give it to you. I mean, who knows what cool stories are associated with this steamer trunk. I love history. I love old things, going into an antique store and looking at old tools, you know, or you can get those little tiny, they're really heavy irons, you know, and women used to heat those suckers in the fire, or they'd heat them on the stove, because, you know, they didn't have electric irons, so they would heat these irons, you know, by whatever, stove, fire, whatever, and then they would use that to iron their clothes. Just all kinds of stuff that, you know, just old tools, you know, like the beaters that you used to make pancake batter, you know, and you did this, you turn this so then the beaters would spin. I remember when I was a kid, my mom had one of those, you know, just stuff like that. It just interests me, and it follows that I got into paleontology, and I got into looking for fossils, and there's nothing quite like digging up something and cracking open a rock and looking inside and seeing a shell that's made out of stone, and it's still got flecks of actual shell, you know, on the rock. You know, you can still see remnants of the clam on the rock. In fact, I should show. I have a dream catcher that I made. Hang on, I'm going to get this down. So this is going to be kind of weird, but I'm going to get this down. Okay, here I am. See this? This is a dream catcher that I made. I went for a while where I was making dream catchers. And at the top, well, see how the web is not perfect? The lady who taught me how to make these was Cherokee. Actually, she's about half Cherokee. And she told me that the ones you buy in the store that have the perfect little things and they have all the doohickeys all over them, very commercial and real Native Americans just kind of laugh at those. Anyway, so she taught me how to do it for real. Every web is different. You just kind of let the web take on its own pattern. At the top, see, I made this little thing. And this here, if you can see it, this here is a clamshell. But it's not just an ordinary clamshell. It's a rock. See that? I dug this up, or I picked this up on, probably I cracked a rock open and I found this. It's most likely what happened. But see how the shell, I mean, doesn't it still look like a clam shell? See? See a little chip right there where the shell material is off and there's just rock underneath? That's a clam. That's a clam that lived a long, long time ago. And now it's a rock. I mean, how long does it take for a living thing like that to turn into a rock? So, anyway, I did a lot of cool things like that with my little seashell fossils. Holding something like that in your hand and contemplating the life that lived so long ago, this was what brought about one big question that I had in my mind. And maybe considering how long this video already is, this is the only question I'm going to bother delving into. But it was a stumbling block for me as a Christian. First of all, I refused to believe that only humans went to heaven. I just could not believe the whole, oh, animals don't have souls bit. I knew too many animals. I had had too many touch my life in, touch my heart to believe that they were just living whatever's walking around without a soul. Shells without a soul. Of course they have souls. I totally never bought into the stupid belief that animals are just soulless, they're just like plants that are living and breathing. So, first of all, I believe that animals have souls, but then it's like, okay, not just animals that live in our houses that we come to love and love us, not just pet animals. I didn't believe that an animal had to have some kind of association with a human being in order to go to heaven. I believe that, okay, either animals do or they don't. And it has nothing to do with whether or not they come to love or be loved by a human being. So then I had to expand my belief a little bit to admit other members of animals. Okay, like wild animals that never have any contact with humans, but they have souls. Because if some animals have souls, then they all must have souls. So I had to kind of modify my beliefs to admit, okay, well, all animals go to heaven. Because there's no original sin for animals. There was no event that happened in the garden to cause a rift between other animals and God. That's just a thing that happened to humans. So, and if animals have souls, there's really nothing to stop them from going to whatever. Maybe it's a different level of heaven than humans. Maybe it's higher up. But yeah, so okay, I kind of expanded this. I added to my original belief that, my beloved Cubby the cat was in heaven. Okay, now I have to think, well, if cats and dogs, then, so do gazelles go to heaven. Okay, so then heaven's starting to look a little crowded, and then I'm like, okay, well, heaven's for, takes up eternity, so there's really infinite space there, so anything can go. Then it's like, how far are we going to take this? Do insects have souls? And it's like, no, I don't think so. Insects don't have souls. We'll draw the line at insects. So we never really quite got that far with the whole animals having souls bit. We decided that the lower life forms like insects, don't have souls. And then digging up these rocks. And I didn't really ever have the intense pleasure of getting to go to a dinosaur dig. Oh my god, that would be like the coolest thing. But just digging up rocks and seeing other fossils that other people had dug up, and realizing, animals existed on this planet a lot longer than humans did. Other animals, other species of animals, dinosaurs, ice age animals. I mean, there's been a lot of animals in addition to what we see here today, that lived, that no longer exist, are they going to be in heaven? Dinosaurs, do they have souls? Because they're animals, and now we're even just starting to think that they might have been pretty intelligent. You know, are they going to be in heaven? What about whales? Are whales going to be in heaven? Is there going to be like a heavenly sea for cetaceans and marine life? And dinosaurs and ice age animals, saber-toothed tigers. You know, what about Neanderthals or other earlier forms of humans that walked the earth? Are they going to be in heaven? You know, if we're going to say animals have souls, then we have to kind of, what, souls didn't just get invented when humans were invented. We have to assume that souls were part of living things long before humans entered the scene. Okay, so must be that all these other earlier life forms are going to be in heaven too. You know, that was real hard for me to wrap my mind around. And then, so that's kind of the whole thing with the age thing and thinking about past life and old stuff. But then I'm also, I like to write fantasy, or I went along a huge chunk of my life writing fantasy, and I like reading fantasy and science fiction. And I do really think that of the infinite, well, it's not infinite, but there's a hell of a lot of them, okay? There's billions of planets in just this one universe, you know? Just from the little sampling that we have discovered, we can assume that there are billions of planets. And of the billions of planets there are, you know, how many of those planets have conditions similar to the Earth that can have life, you know? And the life on those planets, do they develop into higher forms like the life we see here on this planet? You know, so technically they are also animals. They're just animals on other planets. Do they have souls? If there's only one God, then he would be the God of all these other worlds too, wouldn't he? Wouldn't all these other worlds be all part of his creation, including all the species on all the other planets? Wouldn't they also be part of his creation? So if animals have souls, then I have to I have to assume that would apply to all life on other planets too, that, you know, that is above insects, okay? Well, what about other life on other planets that are at our level or maybe even above us in intelligence and, you know, evolution or whatever? What about them? What do they think about the fact that God made humans in his image but not them in his image? You know, stuff like that. These are the kind of questions that I grappled with. Well, maybe God looks different to them. Maybe God made them in his image too, and his image, you know, it just doesn't work. It's like, okay, how can he have more than one image? Well, he's God. Everything is possible. That's what I would say. Everything is possible. And who's to say? Maybe even though he made other intelligent life, maybe we're still on top. Maybe we're still, you know, maybe everything was created really just for humans, just because, you know, it all needed to be there for the earth to be here and the sun. And maybe he made us in his image because we're the pinnacle of his creation, and all these other alien lives that he made, or life forms that he made, even the ones that might surpass us in intellect and technology, maybe they're still under us in his opinion. Maybe we're still, you know, his favorite, and that's why he made us, you know, little monkey creatures from Earth in his image, but not, you know, these vast whatever great intelligences that might live elsewhere. So now I'm starting to feel like I'm talking way out there in la la land, but this is the stuff that would go through my head. It's like, how do I yeah, so these are the, yeah. You see, there's really no answers. to any of this really, except to say that okay, they're all important to God. They're all in heaven, or they're all made in His image. All depending on what planet you're from, or just simply realizing that you know what, there's no such thing as God. Either there's no such thing as God, or there's lots of gods. Maybe each planet has their own God. That's it. But then you're talking about, something that isn't Christian, because Christian believes there's only one God, Christianity. So then I'm like, okay. Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that I had in the back of my mind bugging me as a Christian. This didn't cause me to unravel my faith. This was just one of those things that was always bothering me in the back of my head when I was a Christian. What caused me to lose my faith was reading the Bible and finding out how it had been written, who had written it, when it had been written, likely why it was written. Just things like that, and also really looking at the Bible and really looking at the stories in the Bible and really, not just looking at it like I had been taught to look at it, but looking at it objectively. That was really what unraveled my belief in God. But what was sweet about it was when that unraveled, and I guess this is what I was trying to say in my other video and it just didn't come out. When it unraveled, these other stupid battles going on in my head, all these things that didn't make sense that were plaguing me, like the whole thing with, other life and other planets and ancient life on this planet, all those questions that just, they went away. It's like, what doesn't fit into this equation? The whole God thing, that's what doesn't fit. It's like you have a puzzle and there's one piece missing and you find a piece under the sofa. Oh, it must be the missing piece to this puzzle, and you try to get it to fit. And it doesn't fit. That's what it was like for me. And so when I stopped believing that there was a God at all this other stuff evaporated, completely went away. All the questions that had been plaguing me for years, it just, like the pebble in my shoe that I just, there it is again, kick it out of the way, okay, went away. I never have that pebble anymore. I never have to feel that anymore. There's never that. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have everything make sense in the world. It's wonderful. The one thing that was wrong, the one piece of the puzzle that didn't fit is gone, and I'm finding other things that fill that space, that complete the picture, and it's absolutely wonderful. So this is the end of this video. This has gotten to be a long one too, but I wanted to try to get out some of the things that I grappled with as a Christian, that I tried to reconcile in my head to make it still work, my beliefs, and now those things are just not there. I don't have that internal battle going on anymore between what I want to believe and my ability to think. So anyway, I don't even know what I'm going to call this video, because it's just, but I wanted to try to explain and put out there an illustration of what I mean by putting the questions on the table and really looking at them. That's what I did. The questions, either I put them on the table or they just ceased to be questions once I figured out what was wrong with the equation, why it wasn't adding up. So, okay, I'm going to end this. If you've been watching, again, thank you. Bye.